I've washed and blocked it. It feels so good.
Hey everyone, it's Tara. This is A Loop Through a Loop. Welcome to the August 2021 podcast. We're going to talk about some making and also a little bit of celebrating. So to kick things off, we're going to go into FOs. Okay, loves, we're 1 week through August and I managed to finish the bias, color block bias blanket. The pattern is free on Pearl Soho. You get a better taste of the colors. It's approximately 31¼ inches length and width. I knit this out of Yarn Bee pigment and fiber in the colors, it's called Grapefruit Goodness. And the orders that they came in the pack are the orders that I kept them in the blanket. So it comes in 6 mini skeins, and what I did is I bought 2 packs. And the first pack I used the colors all in the same order of color, and I decreased, and then once I got through the first pack, then I went through the second pack and decreased. I did run out of yarn, but I think it'll be okay. I'm gonna sew on one of my tags, and I think that'll actually be the perfect place to put it. I was not going to rip out everything to fix that right at the very, very end of the corner. That was one of those things where I was like, you know what? It's gonna be just fine. It's gonna go to a sweet little girl, and all kids drag around their blankets, and kids don't care about that kind of stuff. I started this in kind of the middle of June and finished it after the first week of August. What I would do is I would finish a project, and then I would come back to this and work 2 colors, work on a different project, come back to this, work 2 more colors. And I finally just got to the point where I was like, I want to get this done. I want to move on. It's starting to feel kind of heavy, and I want that pressure off of me. So I buckled in and I knit like crazy. So now I can sew on the tag and send it on. The second and last FO that I have completed for this month is a gift knit using some of the yarn that I was gifted. This is all I have left. This was from Old Rusted Chair in the colorway Old Original. The mohair is Asylum Fibers in Tiger Lily. And then this is a Cascade color. I don't remember the name because it's a number. But all the information about the yarn is in my Ravelry page where I keep all of my details. I have it in a little bag that I made especially for the project, especially for the gift, to keep it in and to give it in. I kind of just played around with I had some fat quarters, a pack of fat quarters, because I have to make masks for the kids. In one of the packs, I thought, you know, those colors go really well with the yarn that I'm working with. And so I kind of just played around with what to do. There's a zipper in the back. Here's a sneak peek inside. I ended up making birds of a feather like I thought that I would. I've washed and blocked it. It feels so good. It feels so nice. I decided to do a picot edge around the side, but I didn't go through with any wires or pins or anything to make the picots stick out. That was just my own personal preference. Now, whoever gets this could re-block it and then probably do a better job blocking than I do. I worked on this project monogamously for about 2 weeks. This was the only thing I would work on. I took it in the car line with me. I knit on it at home. I knit it when I was waiting for my groceries. Everywhere I went, I took this with me and worked on it. This was a really fun knit. I'm glad that I made it. I may eventually one day in the future make it again for myself, but I do like how all the colors kind of coordinate and play with each other. And I'm glad that I did the picot border just so then it ties in the cascade color with the other colors. It's just really beautiful. So who this is for is one of you. I decided that since the yarn was gifted to me, I wanted to keep that giving train going. So since Roz gave me the yarn, I would then do the work with my hands and give it to one of you, wrapped up in a small project bag. Now this bag, as you can see, here's the shawl inside. It's filled up to the very, very top. So this is a really good bag for small portable projects like hats, socks, mittens, something that's probably about 2 skeins. A project that is 3 skeins is gonna be, I mean, if you don't ever close it, it fits. I worked from this bag when I was making this. When I was knitting it, I thought I'm gonna keep the yarn and the project in this bag. I'm just gonna work on it and just pour everything I have into this. So it's possible to keep a 3 skein project in this bag, but then you can't close it. So if you were wanting to be able to close it and throw it into another bag or throw it into a basket or a pile or whatever, it would probably need to be a project that is no more than 2 skeins. Now, next up, you need to know, how could you have a chance to have this sent your way? Well, let me tell you, friends. What I have done is I have started a group on Ravelry. I've debated this in the past because I normally only use Ravelry for kind of like projects and patterns. I don't really use the community or group tab very often at all. And if I do use it, it's normally because a podcast has mentioned something or somebody said something on Instagram, so I want to go check it out. But the group and community is not something I normally use Ravelry for. If I'm looking for some kind of community or contact with other knitters around the world, I come to YouTube or I go to Instagram. But the thing with YouTube, if I'm doing a giveaway, is that you can enter things in the comments, but then getting contact information can somehow get lost in translation since you can't send direct messaging. So what I did is I opened a group, short story long. I opened a group on Ravelry, a loop through a loop. We have a couple members so far, so they kind of already knew this was coming. And I have 3 discussion threads currently open. The first discussion thread is how you can enter to win the giveaway. All you have to do to enter the giveaway is make a comment in that thread about what is the best knitting advice you were ever given or that you could give somebody. And that's it. That's all you have to do. I'm going to tell you that it is limited to only 1 comment per person. When I go back in and check periodically, I'm thinking maybe a couple times a week, once or twice a week. If you comment more than once, what I'll do is I'll keep your first comment and then delete the other comments if you get comment happy. Just to keep it fair, 1 entry per person, just to keep things fair. And then that way I have a way of messaging you directly and personally so that we can talk about how this can be sent to you. Then there is a second thread about a knit along. I thank you so much for all of your suggestions and comments about what we could do to celebrate together. The most popular comment was have a knit along. And I've never hosted a knit along. I've participated in a couple, but I thought, shoot, let's do it. That's a great idea because you can just use what you already have. You could go out and buy something if you want to treat yourself. It's kind of just a way to knit something together, and you can customize it however you want. So the knit along, I'm going to call the Thru a Loop Cal. So you can hashtag that on Instagram, hashtag Thru a Loop Cal. There's also a thread open on Ravelry where you can post pictures of your projects and what you're working on. And I genuinely feel most excited about seeing what other people are working on. That is part of what I love about seeing on Instagram, are people posting about their projects, what they're starting, what they're working on, what they're finishing, how things are going with their projects. So I'm really excited about the Cal. For the Cal, and what you can make is, I'm not going to have any rules about what you can't make. I want to tell you what you can do. Here's what you can do. You can knit any of my published patterns, and you can find those in my Ravelry store. You could get the Swan Pas de Deux, or So This Is Love. I can't believe I forgot that. It's named after Cinderella, and we watch Cinderella every single day because our little one is obsessed with her. She says, Cinderella. So I have some hat patterns, and I have 2 garment patterns. I have the dish tee that has 2 different sleeve options, and then I also have Blue Christmas that has an Aran weight option and a fingering weight option. You can knit any of those, or you could choose to knit something that I've mentioned on the podcast. So either one of my patterns or something that I've already made. And then I have to figure out what I'm going to do, because if I'm hosting it, I think I probably should knit something so that I can also participate and be in there with you guys. That's exciting. Again, if you are participating, you can update your progress on the Ravelry thread and post pictures with the hashtag Thru a Loop on Instagram. There is a third and final thread that I've started. This is the last one, I promise, and then we'll talk more about knitting. There is a question and answer thread that you can go in. You can ask me whatever question it is that you have, and I will answer it in the next podcast. If there's an avalanche of questions, I might break it up like Natalie does on Knitting Natty, where she takes like a group of questions and chunks it up. So I can answer those in next month's podcast. That will actually be the complete 1-year anniversary of the podcast. So if you have any questions, you can leave those in that thread over on Ravelry. And since they're only just question submissions, if you can't use Ravelry, then you can drop a question in the comment section down below, and I'll just collate and put all of the questions together into a document to answer for next time. That's everything. I hope that was easy to understand. I feel like that was somewhat a lot. Like, I had to write notes so that I could remember everything. If you have any questions about any of that, you can put a comment down below. You can email me at aloopthroughaloop@gmail.com. You can message me on Instagram. You can message me on Ravelry. If you have any questions about the Ravelry group and all of the threads that I just mentioned, you can always contact me and ask me, and I'm more than happy to help you. Let's get into whips. When it comes to whips, none of them are very far along, since I spent most of August knitting a blanket and a shawl that were both fingering weights. I hesitate to say that August was a slow knitting month for me, because I believe I still knit the same amount, but my yarn was thinner, and so the number of objects that are finished and the progress that I have on my whips seems pretty minimal, but the number of stitches that I knit is quite a lot. So, I mean, it all kind of evens out. I guess it depends on how you define productivity. I wanted to first bring out my Bas Relief wrap. This has been a pleasure to work on. It's a free pattern. I am using Pearl Soho Cashmere Merino Bloom and Bright Flamingo. This yarn was gifted to the podcast. I wanted to make something that was pretty classic. In fact, Pearl Soho sample they have on their website is knit in the same yarn, but it's in a cream color. Gorgeous. I like taking something that's very kind of traditional feeling and classic and then doing something just kind of fun with it. So like bright pink flamingo. So that kind of ticks my boxes for this. It's knit on US 6 needles. And if you notice, I think I've gone over all of that before in the last podcast, but I don't think I went over how I kind of organized my pattern like this, because this can look intimidating. And once you catch on to the pattern of it, because it's all knitting and math, that's all knitting and math are just patterns. So what I've done, I'm going to show you my stitch markers. So like there's blue, is that orange? The colors are kind of finding themselves in this light. There's orange, there's yellow, there's pink. I have specific colors of markers in specific places. And I want to show you my chart. Now this is, like I said, it's a free pattern, so I can show you this. What I have done is I have colored off parts of the chart according to the stitch markers. So I know when I hit the orange stitch marker, now I'm in this section. When I get to the yellow stitch marker, oh, now I'm in this section. The parts that I have, ooh, could you see that with the glare? Ooh, sorry. The parts that are colored in, kind of, I scribbled them in with black. Those are the parts that I cut out. The moss stitch that I just wasn't gonna have enough yarn to make that work. I did some math and calculated what are the stitches I could get rid of and still get a decent amount of length and width to make a wrap using 4 skeins of yarn, instead of doing the scarf, which calls for 3 skeins, because I really want the wrap, which calls for 7, but I don't have that much. So I got rid of those stitches, and then I just use some masking tape and my little multicolored pin here. The pattern is a 40 row repeat. And so what I did when I kept my tallies is this is a group of 40, this is a group of 40, so I can change colors and know how many repeats it took me to make it, whatever. It's an easy and colorful, fun way to keep track of my project. I wanted to go over that because I know I showed my bag that I had made, and did I show this bag? I don't even remember. Did I? I have this bag. Did I show that I made? I made this bag because I was working out of another bag and I realized I wanted a bag with a zipper, and the bag I was working with didn't have a zipper, so I just made a new one. I put my tag on it, put a little cheetah on there because I wanted to, because I love this main fabric. This was a fat quarter that I got at Hobby Lobby, and then I've got, are these leopards or cheetahs? And why don't I know the difference? But anyway, I just thought these coordinate well together. They're playful and fun. I realize that's not everybody's kind of thing, so. Okay, moving into the second whip, I made a little bag for it as well because this is also a gift knit. It's a little Mickey bag. I made this with a couple of fat quarters and some clearance remnant fabric. I hadn't originally thought of making this bag. I had prepped the fabric. It was hanging over the ironing board, and all of a sudden I looked over and I thought, hey, that's like Mickey Mouse. And then I thought, wait a second, maybe I know what to make my nephew now. Because you know, it's like plagued my knitting for a while now. Ever since I got the first blanket done and sent off for baby 1, and then trying to figure out what to do for baby 2, I'm just like, I don't know. I used the same bag construction that I used for all the bags that I make. But this time I added some ears. I just used some fusible foam. I will say I didn't just have the idea and then make it. I had the idea and I really thought about it for a couple, 2-3 days to really think. At first, it was just gonna be like this, just a regular bag. And then I had been watching the Disney Channel Disney Plus Imagineering series, and they always talked about, okay, if Walt Disney was standing next to me, he'd probably be like, okay, so that's nice. What's something you could do that's just a little bit more? Add ears. And I already had the fusible foam because I was going to try making a tote bag, a sturdy tote bag, but I just never have. So I thought, I already have all these things. Let's make it. So then inside, if we open it up, and that's kind of what, so this is something that I loved, is so when it's open, it looks kind of funny, but when you close it, it's like the ears, the proportions and the distance of the ears, it all just worked out. Like I had an acquaintance back home ask me, like, how did I do that? And I was like, giving her like explanation of how I did it. And I was like, I promise it was just way more easy when I did it. Like it's 10 times harder to explain how I did it. Like if I could have just filmed myself doing it, or if you were there with me, it would make a lot more sense than how I explain it. So anyway, there's some dotted rainbow fabric inside, and there's the yellow yarn that I was going to use in my sweater. And then when I had the idea for this bag and watching Disney, I thought, that's Mickey Mouse yellow, like his shoes. I should use that for him, not for me. This isn't meant for me. I have started, like I said, this is meager progress. I've started on a blanket. This is all that I have this is all I have to show you, is just one small little corner. But I will say that I started this particular blanket with this yarn 4 or 5 times. I mean, it never got very large, but trying to figure out what I wanted to do took some time. In the end, I decided to use a shawl pattern from 52 Weeks of Shawls called Granada by Claudia Quintanilla. There's a picture of the model wearing the shawl. And really the only thing that I could show you would be like a small, tiny, how can I do this? Like right there. Like that's pretty large. That'd be a great size for a baby blanket. Now, the problem is that it calls for more weight than what I have. I either need to whip on over to Hobby Lobby to the clearance section and see if they have more of this yellow yarn, or use what I have and make it work. Typically, I would just say, I'll just see how this goes, and if I need to go buy another skein of yarn, then I will. The problem is that this yarn has now been discontinued. It's on clearance. I don't know how long it's going to sit in the clearance section before somebody buys it, or they decide to just throw it out. I don't know. I haven't decided. We may tootle on over to Hobby Lobby because I need to buy some more thread, and I'll just see if it's there. I'll pick up one more skein and then just be done with it. But that's the pattern that I'm going to follow. This is knit on US 2s. I'm using Chiagu on a crazy long cord because that's what I have. So I'm gonna make do with it. It feels very soft. I wasn't sure about the density of the fabric. Would it be too dense? But then, you know, now that I've worked up quite a bit of it and feeling it, it is soft, but also density wise, it's okay. It's good. It's not so dense that it's rigid and hard, but it's not so loose that it's floppy and could get holes easily. And since this is going to be a blanket for a little one, it needs to have some kind of stability. My last whip is something that I take with me in the car during car pickup. Now that my birds of a feather is finished and ready to be given to one of you, I've started my second half wrap. I have enough to make the larger version, and instead of casting on 290 stitches, I cast on 300 stitches. Will I end up with enough yarn? I don't know, but we'll see. This is in True Turquoise, and the second color is Vintage Celadon. Celadon? I say it so eloquently inside my head, and by the time the word works its way down to my mouth just butchers it. These will be lovely. I'm calling this like as a nickname. It's kind of like Ocean Eyes. Makes me think of the Billie Eilish song, Ocean Eyes. Love that song. Such a good song. Not much progress there. I am in the car line for about 20 minutes, and then, 20 minutes, I can only get maybe 2 to 4 rows done, depending on when we get there. One last thing before we go. I have something missing in my whips, and that's a sweater. Sweater knitting is traditionally my favorite thing to make. I love making sweaters, and right now I don't have any sweaters on the needles. Now, I'm very excited about the wrap and the blanket, and I guess the 2 wraps and the blanket, but I feel like I need to get my bangs straightened out. I need to get a sweater on the needles, and I have a couple of options, and I want to have a little bit of help because I can't decide, because I'm equally open to cast on any of these. I have 4 different options, and if you would be so kind as to leave your 2 cents in the comments down below as what you think I should cast on for my next sweater, I would greatly appreciate it. So I'm going to go through this yarn fairly quickly and show you what our choices are. First up, I have these 2 yarns. I would hold them together and marl them. This is Knit Picks Gloss Lace Weight, and this is Knit Picks Aloft Mohair. Hold them together, marl it. I'm thinking knit a solid blue Christmas, which would also then tie into our cowl that we are going to start. I didn't mention when the cowl would end. The cowl will end on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's my all-time favorite holiday. It's probably Thanksgiving, and then Easter is how I would rank them. Thanksgiving's my #1 favorite holiday ever. I'm thinking a blue Christmas in this. One of my test knitters made a solid version and it was gorgeous, so I'm kind of thinking of this. Blue Christmas with the blue yarn is option 1. My other choice of what I could cast on is purple. So we have Holst Garn, Super Soft and Sweet Pea, and Knit Picks Aloft and Cosmopolitan. I would use these to make Andrea Mowry's Illuminate. So Illuminate with the purple yarn is my second choice. Then I have Rowan Alpaca Classic, which is like my beloved. I don't think I covet very many things or hold very many things like really precious that I don't want to use them, but this is one of those things that I do because it's not easy for me to get. But Pink Fizz by Andrea Mowry is the pink option. And then kind of like this creamy champagne. This is Yarn Bee Chloe in the color Bisque. And I would make Nurtured by Andrea Mowry with this. This is option 4. So one more time really quick. Option 1, Blue Christmas. Option 2, Illuminate. Option 3, Pink Fizz. Option 4, Nurtured. And yes, I realize that 3/4 of my choices are all Mowry patterns. Like I said, if you have any suggestions, 2 cents, input, drop a comment down below. And because I'm kind of up for anything right now, I would be equally happy to knit any 4 of those. There's not one that I'm feeling a pull towards more than the other. So whatever option gets the most votes wins, and that's what I'll cast on. I'm kind of really excited to see what you guys choose. That is everything. That's everything for the month of August. Remember to head on over to the Ravelry group and check out the 3 discussion threads. Put any questions that you have so I can answer them in next month's podcast. Enter to win the giveaway. Join the cowl if you would like, any capacity that you would want to. So I will see you at the end of September. And I can't wait to see you again and hang out with you. Thanks for hanging out today, and I'll catch you next time.